My name is Dr. Dave Camwell, and the fine folks here on stage are the Troy Jazz Ensemble, and say hello, everyone. And we have had a great time today. We've been sort of touring various high schools and playing, and the highlight of our day will be after this going to Buc-ee's, of course. So it's been a good day for Troy Jazz. Just to show hands, how many of you played jazz band or have had some jazzy experience? Excellent, cool. And there's a hot rumor going around that at least a couple of you may sit in with our jazz band at the end of our set. What do y'all think of that? So I'll tell you what, because like a variety of things in life, sometimes things are more fun when you do it with other people. And so if you, for the last couple of pieces, and I'll announce this in our set, when we're at that point, if you want to, you are allowed to get your instrument and join us on stage. So, does that sound good? Yeah. All right, cool. All right, well, I will introduce you to all of these fine folks individually during the concert, but we are going to start with our first piece. This is entitled Back Row Politics, and it's by Gordon Goodwin. Have you heard that name? Yeah, he's kind of a big deal. Unfortunately died tragically, unexpectedly last year, but left us some amazing charts for a big band. You might have heard of his big band, the Big Fat Band, which uses a lot of the most terrific LA studio musicians, and also just arranged a bunch. He was very involved in the Hollywood music part. So anyway, so we're going to play a couple of his tunes to start and actually close our concert. So this is entitled Back Row Politics. Thank you again for having us here, and we're excited to play with you. Would you like to meet them? So, on the far end, we have Tycoon Lannister. Yes. Next to him is Daz Klondike. Blow up facial hair. That is Bentley Kensington. Next to him, fan favorite, that's Hoop Furioso. And graduating at the form, he's hoping to graduate this year. It's been a few years, but we're thrilled to have him. This is Sorry Johnson. All right, well, we've got a fun tune that we heard quite fond of by Bob Minzer. He was a very famous saxophonist and has his own big band, mostly in LA and New York, big deal in the jazz world. This is a fun tune of his called Go Go. All right, well, this band plays lots of different music, and of course, when you hear jazz band, the word jazz itself is actually really a catch-all, because there's many types of jazz. There's funky jazz, Latin jazz, traditional jazz, on and on and on. Such a catch-all word. So we're going to play now, and we're going to feature one of the most valued members of our band, Mr. Shepard Marosco, in a beautiful tune entitled "Ruby My Dear," which is written by Thelonious Monk, which is a hilarious name, actually, but it's true. But Shepard is going to do a beautiful job on this, and it's really just some gorgeous music. So we hope you enjoy Ruby My Dear. Shepherd Roscoe, everybody, let him hear it. By the way, so we have a little treat coming up. The saxes are getting set, but I'd like to introduce you to the rest of the shepherd, the rest of this section. Just to your left, his right, at the end of the row here, we have Liberty Gerbil. Stand for Liberty. All right, on the other side of Shep, we have Brooke Huberman. We have Ed Hauser Black. And at the end of the row, laying down some great baseball for you, we have Roy Heinar. All right. We'll get the saxophones in a minute, but first I have something really cool for you to play. This is a little saxophone quartet written by a graduate of Shore University, Jackson Henson, who's a full-time composer now, writes like video game music and other really cool things like that. So this is entitled Mr. Whimsical, and whimsical it is. What a perfect title, as you shall see. All right, boys, let's go. Right here, we have Dickie Davis. Say hello. And then we have another cool tune. All right. Sitting right here at the end of the section, we have Rusty Halloween. On the other side of Dickie, we have Shane Forgy. There's Shane. We have Max Glant here. Next to him is Breakbuster. And we have Frank Forfolk at the end of the set. All right, we're going to play a piece. This is a very short story about the composer. It's called Looking Forward, and it's by Brian Martin. And the interesting thing about this is a lifetime ago, I used to teach in Iowa, and I ran a jazz camp, quite a large jazz camp. And there was this guy called Brian Martin, who was a student. He was a high school student about your age, and he went for 3 or 4 years. And then he graduated, and then I moved him, and I thought perhaps I'd never hear from him again. But he actually has turned into a fantastic jazz composer, and has written a lot of charts. And he's now a band teacher in Boston, Massachusetts. And I got to meet him and actually play for his students with a group of mine there when I was on tour last year. So it's kind of cool to have this kid who was at my jazz camp years and years ago, who was really awesome and become something really cool professionally as well. So, and if you are interested and have access to the internet at some later time, you can look up Brian Martin Composer and find all sorts of cool things about him. He's written some great charts for young jazz ensembles, college jazz ensembles, high school jazz ensembles, pro ensembles, everything. It's just highly recommended. So Brian Martin is his name, the composer of this next piece. It's going to feature many of the members of this band as well, so you hope you enjoy Looking Forward. to feature one of your own. Does anyone recognize this fine woman? This tall drink of water goes by many names apparently, including Cam. And so we're going to feature Cam on a beautiful arrangement of a tune you might have heard of, Georgia on the Line. You sure made good. Huh? Pride of Opelika. That's how we start those conversations, but it's true. Very, very good. All right, we're just going to introduce our written section, and then we've got another team for you, and then hopefully those brave enough can come up and join the band. So, anyway, so you've met our trumpet section, our sax section, our trombone section. All we have left is now the bass section. And so, or rhythm section, but let's start with the bass. On bass, please put your hands together for Sal Commotion. On guitar, we have Portia de Kuben. On keyboards, we have Tony Excalibur. All right. Back here on our percussion, we have Mustafa Fasil. Next to him, Pinch Finger. And on drums, give it up for Lord Featheringham. All right. That's great. So we're going to play a piece called Perseverance by Mike Tamaro, and it's quite exciting. I think you'll like it. It's very much sort of like a building block tune. It starts with this little word cell that you get added, and then suddenly, by the time you get to bar 29, it explodes. So you should do it. I hope. Here we go. Perseverance. exciting moments in here. And speaking of exciting moments, so we have just 2 tunes left. Do we have anyone that might like to join in the fun? How about a hand for these 2 great ladies over here? Okay. Well, we need to grab some stands and chairs and all sorts of things. Goodness, this is a party. My goodness. So, all right, sit down. So congratulations, and this really speaks to the power of and the importance of sight reading, right? How many of you, zip it, Chatty Cathy, how many of you work on your sight reading every day? Yeah, when I was in grad school, I went to a big school, and the concert of the year was always the sight reading concert. So I went to a university in Northern Colorado. It's one of like 4 universities I went to, and they had 5 big bands. And every April they had a concert where the band would come on stage, and the band ahead of them would choose, or the director would choose the music that the band got to play. And you couldn't look at it until someone started the timer. And then the band director would give you 3 minutes to talk it over. You could sing rhythms, you could talk about form and things like this, but you couldn't play a note. And then the 3 minutes time, there would be a little triangle that went off, and then you would be playing. And it was one of the most popular concerts that there was, and it was really exciting to see what happened. Sometimes there was disasters, but quite oftentimes the musicians would rise to the moment. It was really quite exciting. So, yeah. So that's not quite this, but it's close. All right. So let's if you guys are back there, musicians, come join us. Come sit. Yeah, you're almost there. All right. Cool. So we will sort of arrange ourselves. All right. So I guess we need some chairs. Yeah, so you sit next to the person that plays something you do. That's kind of what we'll have to do for this. All right. So are there any extra chairs other than this one? By the way, so this next piece we're going to do is called Europa, and it's a famous tune by a famous musician. How many of you have heard of a guy called Carlos Santana? Yeah, he's kind of like this big rock guitar player guy. And so this is one of his pieces, and it's going to feature Dickie Davis over there, throwing down some fire, as well as some of all y'all, as we say here in the South. Wow. It's kind of good. All right, here we go. Let's see how this goes. Thanks, everyone. And how about this evening with the ladies keep joining us? We have time for one final tune, and then it is time for you to go to home and for us to go home to via buses. So, we'd just like to thank your school administration and your fine teachers for inviting us here. And thank you guys for being such a wonderful audience. Have you had a good time so far? At the end of our program, at the end of this last thing we're going to do, if you'd like to come up and talk to any of the members, I promise you we're not scared, and some of us are wonderful conversationalists. So, take advantage, especially for some of the plays this week you do. If you have any questions about Troy University, please let us know. Just so you know, this is an audition group. We get auditions every fall, but it's not limited just to music majors. We have a variety of majors, including music, that come up and form part of the band. So it's really it's for everyone, and it's just a competitive environment, but the stuff is posted in the summer, and there's lots of time to make it happen. So anyway, if you have any questions, let me know. Probably and hopefully some of you guys will be in this band in the future. Anyway, we're going to play a favorite of ours, we hope a favorite of yours in the future, right on alto. This is entitled Play That Funky Music.